Yeah, you have the violins, cellos, classical guitars.
Tell me
There's
when
some
it's running.
others. Lute. Pardon? What do you mean weird? I've seen
Okay.
it.
I'd like to call the Ravenna City Council Committee of the Whole meeting for January 20th to order. Could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Kelfi?
Here.
Ms. West? Here. Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Ms. Lodato? Here. Mr. Maravich?
Here.
Ms. Michael?
Here.
Mr. Harper?
Can you get a motion to excuse Mr. Harper for this evening?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Okay, first item on the agenda is approval of the Committee of the Whole meeting minutes from December 22nd. Does anybody have any changes, additions to those minutes that were distributed to you? Hearing none, could we get a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, next item is an ordinance to accept $1,000 donation from Swagelok for the fire department. This is from Public Health and Safety. Ms. Michael?
Actually, it's for both police and fire. I know there are two. This one is for the fire. This is something annually they do. They've done for quite some time, and we appreciate it and want to say thank you.
Questions or concerns about this item?
Take the money and run.
Is that
That's
at the
channeling
pleasure,
my inner Bruce right now, yeah.
is that your pleasure of the?
Yep.
Just one
Yeah, sure.
question. If it's for $1,000 from each, do we need to make sure that that language is reflected formally in the ordinance? Like 1,000 is an appropriation?
There's two separate ordinances.
Yeah, we're going to have two
Just making
separate
sure, yeah.
ordinances. I'll read the next ordinance next.
All right.
So what's the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
Would you like
Consent.
Consent agenda?
Yes,
everyone?
consent.
Okay. So the next item is an ordinance to accept $1,000 donation from Swagelok for the police department.
Ordinance.
Ordinance and
And
consent.
it goes along with the one I just read, except it's for the police department. And again, thank you for this generous donation. They appreciate it.
Okay, fourth item is an ordinance to accept $25 donation from Don L. Aston for the police department.
Again, another donation. We'd like to say thank you to Don for this donation. This one is for the police department. No match required.
Ordinance.
Ordinance?
Ordinance.
and
Consent.
Yep.
Moving along. All right, the next item is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to adjust the charges of ambulance billing. Ms. Michael?
Yes, this was discussed in committee. This was a lot of discussion that Mark had with the ambulance billing company and also our finance director. It was a needed thing that needed to happen. We were underbilling where we needed to be comfortable with offsetting, especially the supplies and so forth that, our fire department and medics are using. We were fair about it. We did not increase the full amount, but we did a gradual increase that will offset and help the budget with the expenses that we are using.
Any questions or concerns about this item? What's the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
Would you like to place this in the consent agenda?
Consent.
Consent.
Okay, the next item is an ordinance authorizing the donation of 6 bulletproof vests to Edinburgh and Portage County EMA. Ms. Michael?
Yes, this is, I can't even talk tonight. This is accepting these in order to donate to Edinburgh and Portage County. There's no cost out of it. It's a donation. It's okay. I think that we usually help out other communities.
Are these extras, or are we replacing ones, got new ones we're
We
replacing?
usually replace them. Yeah,
Replacing.
So these are excess,
yeah.
unneeded, no longer needed for city
So the life
purposes.
expectancy of the vests. are
They're only
roughly
so
between
long.
10 or 5 to 10 years.
Well, no.
We're at that time frame.
Oh.
So we updated ours. Edinburgh doesn't have any bulletproof vests, and they also respond to Southeast School District for active shooter. And EMA also would like to have them. So when I put an email out to the county, those two entities contacted me back asking if we could have them. Edinburgh, I gave 4 to because they have 2 ambulances, and EMA was happy to have the other 2.
I'm just pointing out that they're no longer needed
No.
for our
They're no longer
purposes.
needed
Yeah.
for us, correct?
We got new ones to replace it, and they're at their end.
It's a nice way of upcycling.
Yeah, and giving to a community that can still have some use out of them.
Any comments?
I'm happy to do
Questions?
it.
What's the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
Ordinance.
Consent.
Consent agenda? And if anyone doesn't want to put something in consent agenda, please let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to assume you do. But you'll always have the option of taking it out up until the point we approve the consent agenda. Next item is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a purchase agreement with Wyndham Fire Department.
And this is for the ambulance. As our previous meeting stated, we did put it out there to bid as followed protocol, what we needed to do. Nobody came back with any bids on this. Wyndham has money to purchase this. It's a fair price, and they're in need of it. They have the money available, and we want to go ahead and take that money that is better than what we thought we were going to get for it, and knowing that it's going to stay in our county and help a smaller community.
Okay, and do we have the agreement yet, or is it still being drawn? We do, okay.
It's right here.
Any questions or concerns?
Nope, this is something we've done through the years, and I think it's a good thing that we can do this.
Okay, what's the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
So this one will be on our special following the committee of the whole meeting, so it won't, it's not eligible to be put in a consent agenda.
Okay.
The next item is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract for the school resource officer, also public health and safety.
Yep, and this is paid for right now through part of a grant. The school resource officer will be used at Brown Middle School a lot, and I know that right now that in the paper, it stated that there are going to be some changes in locations of where, you know, the ages of the kids are going to be located, and I'm quite confident that they're going to, you know, still use that same resource officer in other areas as well. There's some kids that nowadays need that extra help, and the teachers need it, and I think it's good to have that positive intervention as well that they do have with them. So I think it's needed, and it's paid for right now with a grant, and I think it's a good thing personally.
Clarification, there's a grant for this?
Yeah,
I believe the school
part of it, the
district
school
was getting,
district.
I think,
Oh, well, the school district's paying for
Yeah,
half, right?
right, through a grant.
Okay, well, we're paying, but the
We're
city's paying
paying
for
our
half.
part, yes, but
Yeah.
the school was able to get it. Normally, the school pays out of their pocket their half, but they were able to use a grant to get this.
Okay, okay. Thanks for that clarification. Any questions or concerns about this?
It's well needed.
What's the pleasure of the committee?
Consent and ordinance.
Okay,
Consent.
no, this is also on the special
Oh, that's
tonight.
right, sorry.
Ignore
So
that.
we wanted to make sure we got this done
Got excited.
Yep,
sooner than later.
so ordinance.
ordinance.
All right, so the next item is an ordinance authorizing the purchase of a new sewer camera and van for the street department. This is from Streets and Sidewalks. Mr. Harper's not here tonight, but this was, remind me how much it was, a couple $100,000, 240 something?
Close to 250,
Right,
paying for it over 5 years. This replaces the van that we have and the camera. It's a complete system, so we'll have the van, the camera, the truck, the tractor that
The camera.
transports the camera through the sewer, 4 sets of different tires for different levels, and to get it through the sewers very expeditiously, and it's replacing all of the equipment that we have now.
So is this a full-size van?
Yes.
oh, yeah. And are we committed to the financing that we saw in the packet, or are we getting something?
I will have to, I have not had a chance to get the breakdown yet.
Okay.
Some of it is in the budget, but I think we're gonna need a little bit of extra for the camera part of it. There's a four-way split, and that is for the truck part of it,
So we're going to need an appropriation along with this ordinance?
along with this ordinance.
And we'll have that for our
And I'll get an
February?
Exhibit A sent out to everybody so you can see what that is.
Thank you, Tammy.
All right. And just let everybody know, I mean, we don't have to go to bid for this because the company is,
They are through Sourcewell, which
Right.
is state bid
State
pricing.
negotiated pricing.
any other questions or concerns about this? What is the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance,
Would you like to place this in the consent agenda?
consent.
Okay. All right, the next item, item 10, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an aggregation contract with Charleston and Shalersville. This is from the Utilities Committee. Mr. Moskin?
This is for the electrical aggregate. So the mayor will enter into this as soon as he has an opportunity to do so.
Well, I think the
Paul.
way it worked,
Can we,
go ahead, Mr. Gutierrez.
we're waiting on some more evidence of them passing a result on an issue on this.
I believe they did.
Well, I've talked to Mr. Semino today, and we need more information and more investigation on that. We have ballot results from 2001, but it doesn't have anything on there from their communities and their residents. So I'm waiting for new, information on this. And can we table it for now or suspend it for now?
Well,
Or
it's the will of
however
the
we do it?
committee. We can do that. I think the way I understood it is that they were in an opt-out aggregation program through NOPEC that
Yes.
they voted on, and depending upon the ballot language,
Right.
so is that what you're looking for?
That's what I'm looking for,
Oh,
exactly.
okay.
And then we're looking for an actual opinion on this from
Okay.
PUCO.
And we do have, oh, good, that's helpful too.
Yeah, absolutely, we need that,
So
so,
we have time because.
yes. Yeah, our electric aggregation doesn't end until the end of May of 2026.
Right, and once that happens, and once they, I guess, have they already passed ordinances?
They pass a resolution.
Resolution?
So, I mean, I think we should get more
Okay.
information to make
But it
sure
won't-
that we're
I thought it
doing the
was in
right thing.
June that we would be entering a new contract.
Exactly, yes.
So we have several months to,
We have some time here.
so,
A little bit.
So are we moving this back to committee then? Or waiting?
Can we table it?
Yeah, yes, I
That's what I was
believe we
gonna say.
can
Can we
table
table
that
it?
I would
until
just table it.
the service director is able to find out adequate information.
Yeah, so,
okay.
yeah, I'm waiting for more information from Semino as well as our energy broker, Tom. So
Okay,
if that's okay with you guys.
yeah, I think we need to
I
make
believe
sure
that's fine.
we gotta get this right.
Yeah, I agree.
So what is the will of the committee?
Tabled until further information is acquired.
Okay, and it could be brought back in your committee, there's nothing preventing the discussion of it.
Yes.
We'll keep it on the committee of the whole agenda as well. Is that okay with everyone?
Yes.
Okay. Next item is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Fontis Blue for the water treatment plant. Mr. Moskin?
Okay, this is the same one that will apply the exact same way to wastewater. This year, and this is a fairly new company, but the owner of it, it started his own company, and it used to be CT. So the services are very high quality, they're very knowledgeable, there's never been any problems at all with the owner of this company over the past several years. The past several years, he's done a lot of work, especially with wastewater. So it's very high quality. It just needs to be in progress so they can do what they need to do.
Yeah, this is a 3-year renewal. We've had Dr. Chris Miller as our, one of our representatives for Bill, as well as Amy at the water plant. This company, which is Fontis Blue, which was Chris Miller's company, was sold to USALCO. We used to deal with University of Akron with him. He sold the company to USALCO, but Faunus Blue is a part of that company. And both Amy and Bill would like to see that renewed, please.
Questions or concerns about this? It's the pleasure of the committee.
Ordinance for both of them.
Consent?
Consent? Okay, the next item is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Fontes Blue for the wastewater treatment plant. Same deal.
Ordinance?
Yeah,
We get
ordinance and consent just seems
Ordinance
to be the
and consent
unanimous
agenda. Next item is an ordinance authorizing the replacement of a sludge pump at the water treatment plant. Mr. Moskin?
Yes, we were informed about this to a very good description when the superintendent was here recently to explain about this pump. This pump is original when the water treatment plant was built back in, I believe, 82. If not 2, it was 83. So it's actually served past its normal lifespan. And it's due for replacement before there are big problems.
It's important to move that sludge, keep things clean.
Yes.
All right. Any questions or concerns? What's the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance?
Ordinance and consent.
Consent?
Consent agenda. All right, the next item is an ordinance authorizing the replacement of MMC electrical equipment at the water treatment plant. Mr. Moskin, your last item.
Okay, this is when the superintendent was here, she explained this as well. This will be the finishing of the electrical replacement in that department. This part is also original. And it's not just because it's surpassed its lifespan, it's because if it's not done sometime down the road, there will be some huge problems electrically.
Yeah, I think they mentioned they had old contact switches that,
Yes, those contact switches you're referring to are the ones that were put in there back in 82 or 3.
Questions or concerns about this item? What is the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
Ordinance and consent.
Consent?
Okay. All right, the next item is an ordinance approving the Design Review Commission changes. And this is from the Planning Committee. Ms. Lodato.
Okay. So the only thing I feel like is a variation is based on this email chain about what we spoke about. I want to clarify that there's no proposal to eliminate the specialist position. That remained in there just in case anybody was confused about that. But it's reducing it from 2 to 1 with the,
Well, the proposed changes from your committee were to keep the 2.
right,
But if 2 couldn't be found,
that they could be found
they
from one
could
of
be,
the other sections.
they could be appointed from other categories.
Correct. So, and also the residency, that you have to either reside in the city or own property in the city, which is more liberal than our other boards and commissions that have a residency requirement only. This is just my personal feeling, is that the limiting factor of being able to find people in these positions is finding people that are willing to leave work at 10 o'clock in the morning on a Thursday. So I understand that sometimes it can be difficult to fill roles, but I do feel like the time that it's meeting is also a limiting factor, but we don't control that. So, but, so those are the changes, and then there was another one that had to do with how soon people can come back. Right, that was your, Rob, if you sent something out clarifying.
Well, that was, okay. That was the approval part.
Right,
So, right now, when somebody submits an application for a certificate of approval, the commission is supposed to meet within 2 weeks.
right,
What your committee sent forward was it would be 4 weeks before the first meeting unless the applicant wanted a speedier review, and then it would be 2 weeks.
Yes.
And then your committee moved forward that the second, because both proposals we had and what your committee approved was that there only be 2 meetings from now on, that the second meeting be within 2 weeks. Subsequently, there was a little exchange about whether or not that should be extended. So new proposed language for the committee of the whole to consider is the first meeting will be, we're not changing that unless the committee of the whole wants to, but that's not being proposed. First meeting will be 4 weeks unless requested by the applicant to be 2 weeks. The second meeting will replicate that. It'll be, well, no, it'll be 4 weeks unless they want more time.
Right.
I'm sorry, I'm getting confused. It'll be
No,
2
you're right.
weeks unless they want more time, and it'll be 4 weeks. So it's the reverse of the first meeting.
Correct. Is there anybody that is confused about the clarification of the proposal? I know this is a lot, and thank you, everybody, for being patient through all of these discussions. And a lot of this was just seen as, trying to get businesses to be able to honor the city's heritage and our architecture, but also be friendly and open to economic development.
And let me just go back to the specialist thing, because we did get communication from our law director.
Was that communication or was that his opinion?
Well, yeah, it's his opinion.
It's his opinion. It's not a legal opinion. It's his own personal opinion.
Yeah, I would characterize it that way, not as a legal opinion on whether or not it can be done or whatever. But in a sense, I know the language being proposed allows for 2 specialists, but it doesn't require at least 1 specialist. And I think that was the point Mr. Semino was getting across. Like, why would we not want to require there be at least 1 specialist? And if so, because it might be more challenging to find someone who either lives or owns property in the city, that we expand it to the county, which is the current code.
So I guess for me, being on the committee and kind of looking at this, we just spent how much on creating those beautifully written guidelines that this committee has to look at and follow.
12,000.
So, we should be utilizing that tool more. And if someone is sitting on that committee, I won't say they're a specialist, but they're passionate about historical development and our, so they're going to have a vested interest in making good choices on that. So using those guidelines that we spent so much time to develop is an important tool that we did not have before, or at least.
No, that's not true.
Hold on, those specific guidelines.
Those we.
To this, to how they're written. So we have a nice, fresh set of guidelines to use and review. So is there really, is that necessity still there, if the guidelines are used properly?
I'm just differentiating what I believe the difference between what the proposal is and what Mr. Semino's bringing up as a potential problem. That there will not be a requirement with this set of proposals that the committee approved to have a specialist on the committee.
And I guess
Not that they will be banned from
Sure,
it.
and I guess I'm saying that I don't see it as a potential
No,
problem.
and if
You know-
there's a problem that comes up, we deal with it then. But right now, I think you give the people here the opportunity first.
And we do have it's a very general definition of what a specialist is. It could be even somebody interested in archaeology. So, we're talking about a broad definition.
I like archaeology.
Well, and I think that we have enough resources. I think the guidelines help make it easier to help expedite a lot of, 80% of what's likely to come through to the Design Review Commission for it. But if we do have a very niche or specialized type of case, we also have a city engineer, we also have access to the Ohio History Connection. There's a lot of other resources that we can reach out to in the event that we do need a specialist outside of what we have. And having people that are passionate about that topic, I feel, helps just expedite even knowing who a specialist might be for it. So I think it's reasonable.
The current proposal from the committee.
I'd prefer keeping a specialist on hand just as a personal preference, but I don't think that this is unreasonable.
We were all here during your committee meeting.
Right.
And so at that time, your committee had a voice to move the proposal forward and did so. But now it's the larger group. And given the time between when the committee approved this and now, are there others, particularly outside the committee, who have concerns about what the planning committee has put forward? Or does everyone feel comfortable with the proposal that's on the table right now?
I think a lot of people just want to see this,
Yeah, I'm fine.
yeah.
It needs to be finished and not pushed around any farther.
I respect
it's
Mr.
gone long enough.
Semino's opinion, but it's an opinion, and we've talked long and hard about this, and we've had a lot of opinions, and I think we're at a point now to move it forward.
Okay, anybody else?
I do ask that if we do move this forward, that it is not on the consent agenda.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'll ask, what's the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
Ordinance.
And we will not put it in the consent
I think,
agenda.
I think we've had too much discussion about it for it to be on the consent agenda for too many years.
Well, and so, because there were some questions after the meeting, and I went back and watched it, and sometimes when we're in the middle of these things, it seems confusing and chaotic. When you look at it from like an objective perspective, outside the presence and the timeliness of the meeting itself, we actually, I think council did a pretty good job putting this together. These were complicated issues, and I know because I put together that spreadsheet, how difficult it was to sort of itemize all the changes and compare them. So I commend the committee and certainly all of council for participating in that and moving this forward and hopefully coming to a resolution after all the time it's been taking.
Well, and thank you again, Mr. Karas, because that was my first committee meeting, and that was.
Oh, you rocked it. You did
That
good.
that was difficult to take that on, but I'm glad to see it's moving forward, although I think it's best it doesn't go in the consent either. So,
Okay,
on the next one.
yeah, we're moving on now. Next item is an ordinance accepting $441,279.53 in adult use cannabis tax funds, and this is also from the planning committee.
Okay, so
Yeah,
this is the
that
good
number
one.
is
This is
correct.
the fun one, right? That we finally are getting this money that has been long withheld by the state. I'm glad they figured it out. And I don't want to say too much more about it, but I would like to say that this is, even though this payment is large, this is a back payment. So going forward, although we are still going to continue to generate revenue from this, it's not going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars. But it is going to be a nice amount. I do think there needs to be some intentional discussion about money from this point on, like when we talk about the 2027 budget maybe, that we dedicate this into a line item, whether that be beautification or other capital improvement projects or the safety center, that we use it to offset those costs. But that's the only comment I have, but I'm really excited about this.
Well, I did a little number crunching and kind of like decomposed the numbers. So we received over $440,000. That meant that the state collected over $1.2 million in taxes because it's a 10% excise tax, but we only get 36% of that 10%, which means that our local cannabis dispensary made over $12 million in 16 months. Now, per year, that amounts to a little over $9 million. And the tax they're going to be sending to the state is, $900 and some $1,000. And we'll get, our piece of the pie per year will be almost 331,000, if these numbers hold up, by the way, and they may not. And I believe you, Ms. Lawrence, you said we're going to be distributed this money in monthly payments?
Should be a monthly payment,
So we're talking about
I'll be interested to see what our next payment's going to be.
Right.
$27,579 a month,
Give or
ballpark.
take, yeah.
And
Yeah.
I remember when they came here and they presented to city council, and I did recently, probably about, I would say 6 months ago maybe, call her, the owner, one of the owners, myself, because they stood there and said they were going to give back to the community. And I asked her, I was just curious where, because I've had people from the school ask me, when they were going through some hard times, and they still are, everybody's going through hard times. And with the safety building coming, I asked them, what type of donations have they recently donated to. I was just curious because I did remember them standing there saying they were going to give back to the community. And she had said to me how they have been choosing to give back to the community were volunteer hours
Right.
for their employees. So maybe with this safety levy, they might want to get out and knock on doors. Maybe they might want to help in any way they can, since they aren't willing to, give any donations financially, they're volunteering. But I think we should reach out to them because they're making a lot of money. And I do remember them standing here, and I know they're causing a lot of congestion with the school, in the beginning with the police department, but it would be nice to see more of a commitment in our community,
And
so.
we're not getting a lot of money from them in terms of any type of payroll tax.
No, we're
because
not.
I did ask that when they came to Planning Commission about how much their average employee made, and they said about $15 an hour, which if I'm working there and I'm looking at these kinds of numbers, I'm wondering where my raise is, but they don't, so we're not getting a lot of money there. It's not like they have, some of these facilities have research scientists, which make six-figure incomes, and cities really do well off of that. But we're talking about people who are in retail,
Yeah,
more or
this
less.
is
So
a
we're not
dispensary.
benefiting that way in a dispensary.
Processing and cultivating probably has higher.
Right, so they're not doing any of that. It's just a retail
Well, let's,
location.
But I'm
I
still
mean,
thankful that the state now is finally giving, because in the beginning, we didn't even think we were going to get this a long time ago when it first came out, so.
Well, that's why we put a moratorium in
Yeah.
place. But I think any business in town that's doing so well should give back to the community. That, hey, nearly $500,000, that's a good start, right? Anyway, so, and by the way, I think we can, if council wants to, at whatever form it takes, could devise some sort of way ongoing to commit this money, just like we do, because it's tax. And we tax distribution on our income tax, we have a breakdown. We could do a similar thing for this if we
Yes.
decided to.
I have some guidance, and I'll send it to you
Okay.
guys so you can see what it tells a council to do to approve it.
Because I know
Sounds
when
good.
you sent the email about this, I think it was about 20 seconds later, I was right back with, could we set up a dedicated line item
Yeah.
for a use for this money? Because it is substantial to warrant that. So,
Okay.
and thank you, Ms. Michael, for the recap on what they've committed to.
I don't forget things. I do sometimes wrong, but I do remember stuff like that, and especially when they, pleading with us because we had, there's things we could have said no to.
Well, I did on Planning Commission.
You did.
so, yes, I did. So if anybody wants to go back and listen to the public record on that, you're free to do so.
Any other comments or questions about this item? What is the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
Consent.
Consent agenda?
Yeah.
All right, the next item is an ordinance to create a moratorium on storage facilities within the city. This is from Community and Economic Development, Ms. West.
So I feel like we just talked about this. We did. So our committee had agreed to move forward with an ordinance to create a moratorium that just extends for 6 months, not a year, so that we can work on language, an actual ordinance for storage and storage-type facilities.
Anybody have any questions or concerns about that? What's the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance,
Would you like to put this in the consent agenda?
yes.
Yeah.
The next item is an ordinance authorizing the addition of an entry-level mechanic position in the street department. This comes from the Personnel Committee, Dr. Calfee.
Yes. Currently, out in our street department, we have one mechanic, and that mechanic handles all of the maintenance work on our vehicles in the streets department. They also handle some of the work on other vehicles in the city. over the last couple years, this increased workload has required us to pull someone else out of the street department to help with maintenance. And so we've been pulling members of the street department that have some mechanical background to work on our vehicles. It also has necessitated that we have been sending some of our vehicles out for repairs. The last 2 years, we've been doing that some, which is quite an additional expense when we do that. So Mr. Lovejoy and Mr. Content have requested that we add this entry-level mechanic position to the street department.
So what are the requirements of entry level?
He knows what he's doing.
That's his,
Yeah,
that's like hiring me as a mechanic.
yeah.
Do you know what you're doing? I mean, could you do it?
Certain things. That's why I asked.
Yeah, well, I trust Mr. Lovejoy and the personnel office, the HR office, to be able to determine someone that meets those requirements. They may even have someone in mind at this time. I'm not sure if they told us that or not.
I think this is a really important position. Me coming from maintenance at the wastewater plant, I know we have 2 people down at the wastewater plant and 2 people at the water plant. Increased workload for our lone mechanic down at the street department is it's been increasing over the past few years. Not only like Mr. Calfee said, he deals with other department vehicles also, and he's more than willing to diagnose and fix any other vehicle in this city. And I think really this is an important position to add, and not only because of the increased workload, but also because our lone mechanic at the street department is going to retire here in 4 or 5 years, and it would be nice to get somebody with
Someone in
him
training.
so he can learn in that department and on these vehicles. I think it would be a huge asset to us, and not only because of that, but because we can keep these vehicles in service for our residents. I know many times our leafers go down, or our snow plows go down, and we got one guy working on these, and it's very important to keep these going. So in my opinion, this is utmost importance.
Is there an opportunity, either for the credentials or educational opportunities for like ASE certification, for different types of things as well for this, so we can continue to keep our costs low by having very well qualified employees?
Well, absolutely. I mean, that's
servicing these
something that
vehicles?
Heather's going to talk about a little bit more in the payroll ordinance here. But, you know, our range is in the payroll ordinance is affected by a lot of certifications that mechanics can get. And we want to see these guys get those, for sure.
Thank you.
Any other questions or concerns about this item? What's the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance,
Place this in the consent agenda?
consent.
All right, the next item is an ordinance authorizing the addition of a parks maintenance worker in the Parks Department. Also from personnel, Dr. Calfee?
Yes, this request is coming to us from the Parks Department. They're requesting that this employee be full-time to meet the increased maintenance demands from the new properties such as Sunbow and Emerald Lake. We have additional maintenance requirements there. What the plan would be to eliminate the part-time position and change it into a full-time position. For the past year, just about, the person that's the part-time person has been working full-time hours, and so that would be the change that would be here. This half-time person would become full-time, and the Parks Department is requesting this, and I think the person that they're replacing has been doing 30 hours a week all year.
Yeah, he's working a lot of extra.
Does this role have administrative and clerical components to it? Because I remember some discussions within the department to help support the administration of Sunbow, another component.
Not
So
this
does-
position.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions? What is the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance, Consent.
All right, the next item is an ordinance authorizing the addition of additional personnel in the fire department, and this one comes from the Public Health and Safety Committee.
First, I was confused because it was my committee, and then I thought it was going to Tim's, then it came back to mine, and then I see personnel, so I thought, oh, well, Tim took it after all. I am going to, we had had some discussion last month, and they decided, the mayor and the finance director decided to go ahead and bring forward the discussion of bringing additional firemen to, or firewomen personnel to the department, seeing that their call volume has increased and that there was a shortage at times where there were calls that would come in and there was a length of time of them not being able to be answered. I'm going to go ahead, well, not that they weren't answered, but there was a delay in time, so I do correct myself. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to the chief and let him talk. And I don't know if Heather, if you're here to discuss any of that, or Tammy, or the mayor, opening it up to whoever else needs to talk about this.
I first would like to thank the administration and all the members of council, and Ms. Ludato being a new member of council. The first time in a 40-year period, this administration and the majority of members of council that are present are the first ones to take our staffing levels and address our staffing levels based on increased call volumes in a 40-year tenure. And I thank you so much for that. Being said, I want to give you a little bit of a history lesson. Back in the mid-70s, our department was solely a fire department. There was no such thing as EMS. We had 3 full-time firefighters on shift, and we had 2 swing personnel. The swing personnel would come in and fill the gap when a full-timer was off. July 3rd of 1980, the fire department brought on EMS. At that time, they hired 6 personnel. 2 personnel were assigned per shift to run an ambulance, 1 single ambulance. Shortly after that, which left 5 people on station, shortly after that, the swing person became a 6th full-time member, and we still only had 1 ambulance. Through the increase of call volume, the department petitioned to get a 2nd ambulance. From that day forward, we started taking away from our fire suppression services and started subsidizing ambulances. To this day, we are still following that same trend. We're at the point that we no longer staff for fire services. We staff for EMS services. We have 3 ambulances in our station. We are currently going to a 5-man minimum. We lack the availability to staff a 3rd ambulance, what our municipality dictates from us. We can't keep up with it. The increase in personnel is essential. To be able to provide the services to our community, well, not only EMS, but fire, we have to keep addressing the personnel issue and increasing our staffing levels and increasing our minimum manning levels. It's the only way we can keep up with our demands. Being said, talk with the mayor, he and Tammy, they feel at this time that 3 additional personnel is affordable for the city. And we will continue to look at the funding of what brings into the city through economic development and growth within our community to keep adding personnel accordingly to keep up with the call volume and the demand that is put on our individuals. Again, if we go to a 5-man or 6-man, if we have 8 people on a shift, personnel have to be off. They have accumulated time off, which drops us down. There's many times, 40% of our calls currently are overlapping, meaning that we have at least 2 ambulances, if not a 3rd ambulance out at a time. When we're at 5 people, we cannot staff that 3rd ambulance. We're relying on mutual aid, and mutual aid is not always available to us. We're trying to get our numbers up so we could better provide the services to the community that we are sworn to do.
Thank you. Any other questions or concerns about this particular item?
I guess I do have a question. Do you think there'll ever be like a magic number that staffing would be ideal due to
If
the
you have a
circumstances?
plateau with a call volume, that is a steady call volume with no growth or even a decline, because it goes both ways.
Right.
If our call volume declines, then obviously we could address to say, hey, through attrition, we don't need additional personnel. We could actually release some of those numbers. I'm not saying that's the case, because over the last 40 years, we have gone, when I got hired here in 96, our call volume was roughly 1,400 calls. We're at almost 3,600 calls a year now. So the way that if you look at, on a scale, we usually have 3 years of growth, 1 year of a dip. 3 years of growth, 1 year of a dip. This past year, we're just slightly a dip. We're like maybe a handful, 50 calls less than what we were last year. But if you look at to date, right now, looking through January through the 20th, we are actually over the amount of average calls that we were from last year. So we're on another incline of growth of call volume.
Would you say, like with the calls, would it be, it's the call volume or the acuity of the calls are changing? Because you can have like tons of calls, but you could have less calls and higher acuity of the calls.
It's a
So, I
combination.
mean, what are you seeing? I'm just curious, like the difference of if things are changing versus the volume of calls, like if you're doing a lot of transports versus a lot of like really acute, like, cardiac, ambulance, accidents. Are you seeing like a mix or?
A lot of the increase of the nature of our calls have been due to nursing homes not having private ambulances for transports. Residents not being able to get into a family doctor but are sick enough where they can't drive themselves to a med center or to a hospital. The demographic of just the aging clientele that we have in our community. The Ravenna median age is not in the 30s anymore. We're an older community, a growing age community, and just our demographic in general. All these variables add up to an increase in call volume for EMS. Then you look at the fire side. Even though we do a lot of fire safety education and training, we have everything from open burns to fire alarm activations. More buildings are that have alarm systems. There's faults in them. Storms, wires down, car accidents. The list goes on and on. That adds to it. There's not one set thing that is making our call volume grow. It's a conglomeration of everything that is pushing our numbers up.
Like every category is increasing.
Every category has increased, correct. EMS obviously is the greatest of all. It's 85 to 87% of what our calls are. But even our fire calls, if you look from 1980, for instance, back in the 80s when we had 3 full-time individuals, we were probably running less than 100 fire calls a year. We're running 900 fire calls a year, not counting the 2,700 EMS calls that we're running a year. So all the calls keep growing from both sides. But and I failed to introduce this or talk about this when I presented in October. We're not just an EMS service. We forget our name and label on our station says Ravenna Fire. And we've depleted our fire services capabilities by having 3 squads and not being able to staff and grow in staffing our station and our department.
One other question, and this is just a random question to ask as far as, because I'm just playing devil's advocate right now, just to ask these questions, because I know we've had talks and many a talks, and I know where you guys are. But I'm just asking because I am so familiar because of our relationship and as much as, we talk about this stuff. So with the need of how small everything is right now, with the fire department and, the need of trying to get new stations, new police department, would it be more beneficial? I mean, are you worried if we bring more people in on like a 24-hour shift, if any of these would be female, would it make more sense to do 12-hour shifts versus the 24-hour shifts? I mean, as part is because of staffing and where they're sleeping and because there's no room temporarily. I'm just putting it out there.
If we were to bring a female on and had a female candidate, it would be challenging, don't get me wrong. But my office currently is a secondary bunk room for the officer in charge. So realistically, the officer in charge would probably go back to the common quarters of the bunk room where the rest of the men are. And they would probably utilize my office if that be the case. We can make the accommodations. It wouldn't be comfortable, it wouldn't be easy, but we can try to make it right. Our bigger issue is we don't have separate showers, we don't have a designated bathroom, we don't have anything that separates gender whatsoever.
That's why I'm worried about if you were to, because there are very qualified,
There
females
is.
out there. And it's like, so how would you, bring, if you're so full right now, would it be an option? That was just a worry.
Through contract, the way that's written is all individuals are 24-hour shifts, 3 days a week, or every third day for their work week. So I would not be able to just arbitrarily design something that way. They would fall in suit with with the rest of the Corps. But again, I mean, if we have to make those accommodations, we make those accommodations. It wouldn't be the first time we had a trailer out back either, if we had to. And I'm not saying that's the case. When we do our interviews, we take the people who stand out in those interviews, we process the top 10, male or female. They go through a physical agility that we do inside our house. They have to pass a physical agility through Tri-C. And we give everybody a fair share. If they're a standout candidate, it's not gonna stop us from hiring that individual. So I don't want that to be a deterrent saying we're not gonna hire a female because we can't house them. That's not gonna be the case. We'll make the accommodations.
Thank you.
Do we
Anybody have
any
questions?
questions, concerns about this ordinance? Thank you, Chief, for the full explanation.
I don't have any concerns, but I'm just very glad that it's come to this and hiring more employees in this department because I know that I'll just say it's well overdue.
I think it would be a fine measure of success if we're keeping track of how many times like our teams are double tapped for like 2 ambulances being out at the same time. Like it'd be nice to keep track of that to know that the number, like that we have bandwidth for a capacity.
So the question was asked to me, with the hiring of the last 3, how did that benefit the department? And a quick answer to that is, we had a 4-man minimum. Prior to the 7th person, we had a 6-man shift with a 4-man minimum, meaning that no matter what happens, we always have 4 people there. When we hired the 7th person, we call it a soft 5. I had the luxury to be able to say, I'm only allowing 2 individuals off with the utilization of RDO days, holidays, vacation time. The only time we drop to that 4th person, I do not have control over people utilizing sick time, and I have no control over people taking personal days. With that being said, we did not allow the time off dropping below 5 unless we utilize that. With the hiring of an 8th person at this time, since that's what the city feels comfortable being able to afford, we will raise our minimum manning to 5. It'll be a solid 5. There is no soft 4 anymore. So we will always have 5 individuals at the station. Does that staff me 6 squads? No, but it gets me a lot closer. If you're willing to give me 9 people today, I can give you 6 people. But I don't know if that's a
Pressure luck.
possibility here. I'll happily ask for it, and I would love that. You'd be my favorite people in my world, but I don't see that happen.
I thought we were now.
Yeah.
You still are.
Well, I'd like
You're
to,
my more favorite, and theirs too.
I feel that our safety forces all need to be strong. And, as everyone knows, that's why we recently hired with police, because there had been also a huge increase in a lot of the things going on and different people coming into town, and, I think to keep people in our community safe and to want people to, invest in our community, we have to have strong safety forces. I can personally say I've always been supportive of the safety forces. I've always been an advocate with the safety forces. I know this administration, since they've been on, has always had an open door policy and has always treated everybody with kind and respect. It's been a little disheartening to see some of the nasty responses about council and this administration by family members of some of the firemen on social media, because I know we put it at heart what we do and care about every one of you in our community. And I feel that going forward, we all have open door policies, and we always do our best to make sure you guys have, when things are presented to us. I can't think of recently anything that we've turned down off the top of my head. I mean, we try to constantly make sure, and I know the safety building is huge, and, this is something that we are trying to do, and it is a lot of money, and but we are looking at a lot of creative options. The money that was spent from Sunbow, the 36%, is now back into the general fund, and we do have a master plan for that, and it really, if people give us a chance to see what could happen for this community and what could have happened, we want what's best for our area. And I just have to say that because it's really bothered me. I've talked to the chief about it, but this administration is a very good administration. And I feel this council body also cares, and we really do try to do what's best for the community and its employees.
Okay, so are there any questions or concerns about this? What is the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
Is this something? you want-
Consent.
All right, moving on. Next item is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to sign the collective bargaining agreements. This is presented by Personnel as well as the Finance Director, and I know we have our HR consultant here as well. Mr. Calfee?
The last couple months, we've been involved in negotiations with all of the unions, and the collective bargaining agreements have now all been agreed to. And tonight, we'd like to go over what's in them and some of the changes. And here to help us do that is Heather Richkowski. Heather?
Good evening. I believe all of you received copies of the red line contracts,
Yes.
as well as the summary page for each of the contracts, where you just kind of have by article what the changes were. If you've already reviewed that, I don't know that I need to go through each one of those line by line. I do have kind of my own highlight sheet of some of the biggest changes that we have settled on.
Just for correction, unless I missed it, I didn't get contracts. We got the pay scales.
I had only seen a pay scale.
There was things in there about, I see other things about like uniform reimbursement.
I have
The payroll ordinance is also in our packet, but I don't believe the actual contracts were forwarded to council. That's not a huge issue. You can go over whatever those changes are, but we'll get them certainly before this is voted on. But maybe you could just tell us what the highlights are
Yes.
through those contracts. And we do have the pay, which is probably what most, most union members especially are interested in hearing. And they know because they've already ratified these as,
Yes.
from their unions, so.
So it sounds like Carmen is, maybe, did you already see these sheets where I have listed by union and the article numbers and what the changes were?
I do not have that.
No.
You were looking at the payroll ordinance, I think, Carmen.
That's payroll ordinance.
Yeah, that's later.
Well, I certainly thought I sent those over to Chelsea, but.
I do think you did too. I'm looking back through my emails, Heather, but
Oh, okay. Because I'm looking through too, and I'm like, I'm all confused, like, what?
Yeah.
It doesn't look right.
It's okay, just for the sake
Review the
of
highlights.
moving on with our meeting tonight, if you could just tell us outline what those changes are. We do know what the changes are when it comes to compensation.
Okay. So we have, if I don't need to go through that, I'll just say, with each bargaining unit, we compared them individually to other the municipalities that we compete with for talent. And it was important to us to get our positions to be solidly in the middle of our competition. We know we're not going to be at the top. We don't want to be just barely at the bottom. We want to be very competitive. Other municipalities have been settling recently with equity adjustments along with wage increases. And with our wage comparable evaluations where we were looking at with the two chiefs and with what other cities were at, we realized we needed to make some of those adjustments too. So I'd say police, patrol, and sergeants were by far the most under par in this assessment. They needed the largest equity adjustment for Ravenna to be competitive. I think the police chief talked before about the significant difficulty he had in recruiting based on our structure and losing candidates, even ones that were still in the academy, and lateral transfers were even more difficult. Dispatch was also under par and needed an adjustment. We did add some training incentives, established a supervisory deferred comp match for the dispatch coordinator, so that's for the supervisory positions.
Heather, question on, so when you're saying to make them comparable to other communities, so were you saying that there was, why some, because there's been some question with the percentages versus some versus other, was it because the ones that didn't get the higher percent, is that compared to others because they were ranked lower on a comparison with other communities and the others were closer margin?
Yes.
Okay, I was just trying to understand
Yeah.
where that came from. So the others were totally different scale-wise,
Yes.
correct?
So everyone has for year 1, 2, and 3, they divvied up how they wanted to, but it was a 9% increase for year 1, 2, and 3. Each of the bargaining units had different equity adjustments. And I think to answer your question, that was because some of them were very much under
Okay.
the, what we thought was the middle par. Other ones were maybe slightly under, but the equity adjustments reflected what we were looking at in comparable cities. And we did a lot of wage comparisons and wage gathering, both from just contacting other municipalities and what's available on CERB to get those comparables. And so when we went into each negotiation, we were telling each unit, we are looking at you, your positions, and how they compare with the surrounding communities, because that's who we're competing with when we are looking for talent. We don't generally lose a lot of folks to other municipalities, but it has happened. And if we continue to not keep up, that was going to become a problem, and I certainly didn't want to get to that point. So, yeah, that is the reason why, because some were very much underpaid compared to kind of our counterparts in the Portage County area.
Thanks for explaining that.
Yep. So, apart from the wages, I would say one of the other biggest changes that we had, aside from clothing allowances, which generally goes along with some of the units, prices go up in inflation, so that generally has a little bit of an increase. Differential, so shift differentials needed to be caught up. They hadn't been changed in quite a number of years, so those were some changes that happened. One of the biggest changes in the fire department, aside from looking at their wages, was changing their work week from 50 to 49 hours. So this was also something that was brought up by the negotiating committee and also just in our own comparable research showing that having the reduced work week is something that those candidates are looking at in addition to wages. It's almost, what are your wages? What is your work week? It went hand in hand when we have candidates looking at us. So we reduced from 50 to 49 hours. Doing just that 1 hour a week, it doesn't sound like much, but it increases the hourly wage, which is what overtime is based on. It also gives them an additional 2 days off per year. And again, when the fire chief is recruiting, it's based on wages and on that work week, and that does make us more competitive. AFSCME, I would say, they have the most diverse workforce in terms of different classifications. You know, police only has a handful of positions. The fire department, they're, aside from fire prevention and their rank, they're firefighter EMS. AFSCME, I don't remember the exact number, but it's a long list of between plant operators, the CDL licensed service workers, water distribution. We have the laborers that we incorporated into the contract. So that was one of our challenges in determining the wage package for them. But we also addressed some of the shift differentials, their comp vacation usage, and then the mechanic position. So I'll talk a little bit about that, and I think I can answer the question that Mr. Moskin asked about what the job description for that would be. It's the same one that we have right now for the mechanic. What we are wanting to do with this, currently the mechanic is a range 17 in the AFSCME pay scale. We had proposed changing that in the contract to be a range of 16 to 19 based on the experience, the qualifications that they have. We are working with the union and some local trade schools on establishing what those criteria are from moving from one level to another. And it would be having specific certifications that mechanics hold that they would have to have in order to qualify for the next range up. For the entry level mechanic, they're going to have the same title of mechanic, but really that's going to be more of an apprentice mechanic that's going to train under the current one. They would come in at that lowest range of 16, and then we would establish what are the parameters for moving up. And one of the other changes in the contract was the medical package. It's basically for all employees. It's the same. We've been fortunate to have had comparatively lower healthcare renewal costs in the last several years compared to our surrounding communities. And that is, I believe, in part because several years back we instituted a wellness program. We have representatives from all departments that are on the healthcare committee that puts that together. I think about 35 to 40% participation of employees right now. It's growing every year as they're hearing from their coworkers on the reduced costs that they're getting. But this gives employees who meet the requirements a reduced cost sharing, and then we see employees participate in the activities, working towards a more healthy lifestyle. They have to complete their annual physical. They have to have biometrics done. That includes blood draw, blood pressure, cholesterol check. They have to have at least one preventative dental evaluation and cleaning per year, and then an online health assessment that is reviewing their metrics for the last year. So all the collective bargaining agreements and the non-union have the same medical package, so that's universal across the board. So I apologize that you don't have these.
One clarification, we didn't get the wage scale for AFSCME. So could you just give us the
Yes.
breakdown there, the equity amount and the 3-year increments?
It is a 4% equity, and then a 4% in year one, and then a 2.5 and 2.5 in year 2 and 3.
Okay,
So it's a
2.5.
total of 13%.
Yeah, I don't think we got that. But anyway, thank you. Oh, it was a separate email, I apologize. Okay.
And then I had mentioned we were incorporating, there was an MOU for the laborer at Range 10 that got moved into the AFSCME contract. So that position has already been in place and been filled, but
Is that a change to the payroll ordinance?
no.
No, that's
No.
been
It was already in the
intended.
payroll ordinance. It was just a contract change from an MOU into the contract.
Okay, as council gets distributed those red line changes, we'll have time, if there's needs, to discuss them. It doesn't sound like there's anything dramatic. It's, like I said, mostly a breakdown of the financial compensation changes.
If there is, please email me or Tammy. I'll be able to answer any questions that you have on that.
Yeah, I just forwarded the email along, so you guys should have them in your
Thank you.
email now.
Well, I think I speak for council to thank you and thank Ms. Lawrence and, of course, the mayor. We didn't know how this would go this year, and of course, thanks to the unions for settling so soon. Sometimes, differences are too far apart and we can't seem to get together. It seemed to work out pretty well, so thank you all for doing this and getting it to us in a timely manner. And of course, we want to make this as efficient as possible because the finance department's going to have to start figuring out how to pay people back pay, and the longer that goes on, the more complicated it gets. So thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions? Yes. Oh,
I just
sorry.
want to say thank you for explaining that pertaining to the entry-level mechanic.
Absolutely.
I wasn't on council yet, but I was here when Chief Smallfield made a presentation about making Ravenna more of an attractive city to work if we change the shifts from 8 to 12. And are we on track to do that?
That was a change for the patrol contract. So it's not necessarily that they're absolutely going to 12. It's language put in there that the chief has the option to go to that. And it is the same language that we have in the sergeant's contract right now. They are on 12-hour shifts, but depending on circumstances, the chief always has the option of, with proper notice, going back and forth between those two. I think you've been on 12s for, wow, how long for the sergeants now? Yeah, so it's not disrupting people's lives and just going back and forth. But yes, we did put language in for a patrol to be able to do that, because that was his intent once he gets that staffing up to do that.
And I think, did some of our, I don't know if it's just written in writing, but some of the office personnel and so forth they're allowed to work 10-hour days too, 4 hours or 4 days a week, 10-hour days? Or is that?
I don't think that was a contract. You're talking about
It's not a contract, it's
non-union
non-union,
employees.
but when Carmen had made a comment about making it more of an attractive workplace, that's something I know some of the administration department
heads
does
have
do,
done
which
that
I think is nice.
With non-union, and
Yeah.
actually, AFSCME does have some of that in the plants where they're doing.
Yeah, I
full-times.
thought you did, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, so some of the contract positions have that in AFSCME, and then some of the department heads, based on, their workload and how much they have to be available to the public, they kind of offset who has which days off to be able to do that. But yes, that is something that we are trying to do to be more competitive and attractive for candidates.
The street department was doing that in the summertime where they were closing on Fridays. Are they still doing that? Is that still in the? It's just, I didn't know if it was a contract. Okay. Okay.
It's kind of like that 8 and 12-hour shift. They have discretion to do that.
Okay.
I'm sure everyone on council is looking forward to seeing the actual contracts, but we appreciate the summarization of those changes. What is the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
I would like not to put this in the consent agenda just because of the gravity of these contracts. And in case something does come up, we want to make sure there's an opportunity to discuss them. All right, thank you all. The next item is an ordinance amending the 2026 annual payroll ordinance, which is in your packet with changes noted. Thank you, Ms. Lawrence, for highlighting the changes there.
You're welcome. There's just a few things in there, and of course, the non-union wage scale is attached with the updates there. Just a few uniform allowance adjustments that are in there for the chiefs to get those allowances in line with the union contracts. There's a few specific hourly rates that are listed in there that we apply the increases to. I also have in there the mechanic position, changing that to 2. And the only other one that I do have in there that I want to draw to your attention is I have the service director. We're talking a lot about fairness and equity, and I have the service director move to a range 24 supervisory. Right now, it's at 23 supervisory. We talked about that. He is supervising people below him at the same level. So that position in the
Kind of an
past has
equity
been,
thing.
that position in the past has been as high as a 26 supervisory. So we felt like it was an equity
Yeah.
that we needed to put in there. But that covers the changes. There's not many.
Anybody have any questions about the payroll ordinance?
Will you be putting the 3 firemen in this for next week? or-
Yes, I will. I didn't put that one in there because I didn't know how
Yeah.
that was going to go. But we'll get that. Chelsea will work on if that's
That's
gonna be
the
a
only
separate
other-
ordinance or how we'll get that.
Yeah, we can't anticipate
Right.
passage of
I
that.
didn't want to anticipate that
It'll make
one.
everybody's life a little easier.
And with that, I think we have addressed all of the positions that have been changed during this
Yes.
past year. So everything's up to date
Correct.
now
Everything in there now should be,
in the
I don't
payroll
think I
ordinance.
missed anything.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay,
But
thank you.
I'll go over everything with Chelsea, make sure we've got all the changes.
Thank
All
you.
right, any other questions, concerns? What's the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance,
And again, I would prefer not to put that in the consent agenda just because it's a yearly thing and it has a pretty major impact. The next item is an ordinance authorizing a contract with Zafir for GAP audit services. Ms. Lawrence, this is a finance
Yes,
director initiative?
It's actually Zupka is their name.
Oh.
Because you will see it here and there with the audits. You know, you guys will get emails occasionally. Yes, and this is just to get us going with our gap conversion for 2025 as soon as possible and approve the contract.
Any questions about this? It was discussed, I believe, in the planning committee.
yes.
Thank you, Carmen.
What's the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance,
And this one is also in our special tonight, so we don't need to put it in the consent agenda. All right, only 2 more. The next one is an ordinance authorizing the execution of then and now certificates. Ms. Lawrence?
Yes, there's just 3 on the then and now list this time. One of them was a service agreement. Sometimes those are missed in getting the POs in. One of them was an emergency. And then another one was a day off for a fuel fill, so just the normal housekeeping item.
Questions, concerns about this? What's the pleasure of the committee?
ordinance,
Consent.
Consent agenda? All right, the last item is something I put on the agenda, and it's to create a new standing committee for finance, only because we don't really know what to do with the finance items. And either they're put in, like the last one we talked about for the GAP services, in planning, or someplace else, just because we want to discuss it at that earliest part of our process, or they just get piled into our committee of the whole, which kind of puts us a little bit behind the 8 ball in knowing what we're talking about. So the purpose is to create a separate standing committee, and I did send out some code changes. It's just a matter of adding the word finance in one section of our code that describes all the different standing committees. And I do apologize. In my sort of enthusiasm for pushing this forward, I made some suggestions that I think were probably inappropriate, and I apologize for that. and they were done for the best intentions, but I do believe this committee needs to be comprised of only people who are empowered to create legislation. And of course, our finance director is going to be front and center when we discuss these things, as she always is. So my suggestion is, if council will approve it, a change to our ordinance to create a finance committee, which will be bundled into the other 7. To avoid overburdening any one of you, I would offer my services as a chair and just ask for a couple of committee or council members to be on that committee. The other thing I think it helps is every year we have a budget commission.
Right.
And that's always kind of an oddity, right? It's not in our code that I can think of, or where, or how it's comprised. It would be, it would streamline that, or at least identify the members who could be part of that commission as being on that committee, along with whatever the administration
Right.
puts together on that commission. So that's my proposal. Ms. Michael, do you have a question?
I'm just trying to understand, like, where this would fit in, because we used to have a committee, it was Finance Committee. Then it got changed to Committee of the Whole, because it wasn't, and I honestly cannot remember, because it was a long, long time ago, when Kathy was still here, I believe, that got changed. So are we adding more work on Chelsea to do this? Is this like going to be something right on the same night that we're doing this? I mean, I guess I'm still understanding what.
It doesn't have to be, but that would be the plan, since everyone is here that committee night, and nobody's ever decided to make, except for, I guess tonight was the exception, because we did have your committee tonight.
But I'm trying to figure out the purpose of this versus what she's already doing is telling us this stuff. And I've personally never seen an issue in all the years I've been here of the way things have been going. And I just feel like it's creating more work.
Well, I don't see how it's creating more work. We still have to, when there's a legislative need for, and there's always, just about every month, something from the finance department that needs to be done and acted on by committees, whether it's just these then and now issues. There's just no place to put them at the earliest part of our process, which is in a committee. Now, and that's really all we're trying to do, and I can't imagine they're going to take a whole lot of time. And I do think it's sometimes, I don't know if convoluted is the right word, and I don't know if it's inappropriate, but oftentimes we'll see things that need to be done fairly soon, but because they're not put in that early committee, they appear at a committee of the whole meeting, and then the same night there's a special to approve them. And I always think that's a little bit of a awkward kind of situation where on the same night we're beginning the process and also ending the process for creating legislation. Now, as far as the history, and I was on council when it was still the Finance Committee, not the Committee of the Whole. All we did was change the name. It functioned exactly the same as this Committee of the Whole.
What was the purpose of us change? I mean,
I think a lot of municipalities across the state and maybe across the country started realizing that there needed to be this Committee of the Whole designated to prepare the regular agenda. And so calling it finance seemed to be an odd thing to do. Now, what a lot of cities did was create a Committee of the Whole to do what they were doing, but also created a spin-off finance. Not all of them do that, but a lot of them do. I think Ms. Lodato could tell you that Streetsboro did that.
I chaired it. I would like to say that this was something I campaigned on, was creating a space in these meetings to specifically a dedicated time to talk about the finances, even if it's just an update on where we are with the income tax collection, because these things, I mean, if you don't have a huge surplus budget, I mean, those things can become important, how the different decisions that we make will impact our budget and the decision-making. And I think that it makes it cleaner and neater to have it in that space, and I think that's what.
I think that sounds better. The way you're putting it makes it sound better. By the time he's talking, I mean, he has it all over the place, and this way, and a committee, and a chair, and
I'll
everything.
take all the help I can get.
But Carmen sounds
I
way
think he was trying
better.
not to use the word convoluted, but I do think that because it is, I mean, it's things that we're doing already. It just gives it a dedicated space to talk about it. And I do think, especially now that I feel really excited about the direction Ravenna's headed and some of the acquisitions that we're making and the plans that we have. And I think that it becomes especially important to make sure that the budget and finances are a recognized, consistent part of those discussions for the sake of transparency. Because any one of us, I know that not all of us are on social media, and for those of you who don't go down that rabbit hole, I can, I don't know how you guys do it. I feel the need to be out there and be like a warrior of like, this is exactly what's going on, and I do think that it does end a lot of the debate. When you put those facts, and I know I've bothered you with those public records requests, and you're really great about getting on those, but it ended a lot of the going the back and the forth, and I think that if we incorporate that into our meeting structure, and like you said, I do think it presents a problem that when we keep it in the committee of the whole, and then we add a special meeting, it kind of makes it look like how we're gonna spend the money isn't really up for debate, and it's a foregone conclusion.
Right.
Even if that's not what's happening, it gives that appearance of impropriety. So I think that the more we can avoid that, especially what we're going into, especially this year, from the constituency, that we find a place to separate that. And if you wanna volunteer as tribute to head that up.
Yeah, I'm trying to save everybody a little extra aggravation. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be designated as the president of council to be the chair. But I gladly volunteer to do that. And we're not making any assumptions. If this was moved forward, we'll pick the members at a later date,
I mean, I would be
after it's
interested.
created.
No, I think that's great.
And if you want to volunteer, that would be great.
Mr. Karas, I do think that we have a number of items that come to us at committee of the whole, and it's the first time that we see them, finance items. And although we've worked through that and it works fine, I do think there may be some benefit for having those items go through a finance committee prior to. So it'll give us time to talk about them, know what we're going to be addressing then at the committee of the whole the following week. And although many, many, many of them are just routine things, I think that might really help us. Also, the idea of the budget committee and the people that serve on the budget committee, it may strengthen that to have some designated folks from the finance committee, make sure that they're serving on that. So although it's been open to all of the committee members in the past to go to those, it might bring some structure to that.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, questions?
Yeah, I think it's important that we do this and have that, because I am on social media, but I try very much as little as possible if I can spare it. Mental health is also critically important for lots of people. But to that effect, and the things that I have read regarding what people in town hear of, and I think a big part of it, it's like the reason why our residents are left speculating about what is being done with Sunbow, why is the city doing this, why did we purchase that, is we're not communicating effectively to our residents. And I think that's an important part of transparency, like you're saying, Carmen, and it's part of like from the information technology side. Like we're supporting this with a website, so with a newer website, so we can get this information to people so they don't have to wonder what's going on. They can just find out and just remove the mystery and frustration from not knowing. So I do think this is critically important.
However, sometimes there will be things that do come up in the city that you cannot plan for, that it's an emergency that has to happen. And, it is what it is. You just, I'd hate to see things get delayed that are an emergency, and we have to use common sense for those situations.
Of course, but the good news is not everything's an emergency, and when it isn't, we can communicate effectively. But I do hear you.
So, to be clear, I don't believe it was in the packet, but I did send it out. It would be a change to 2020-03 by just simply adding the word finance as a eighth standing committee of council. So, what's the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance?
Ordinance?
That's what
It
needs
will
change.
require an ordinance to change that code. Okay. Consent agenda?
I think it needs to be discussed a little bit more,
Okay, we'll leave it out of the
because
consent
a
agenda.
lot of times, I've looked at this and read a lot of things for even many years ago. Finance was considered the same thing as committee of the whole. It was just a word to mean the same.
Right.
So adding finance, you're just adding something else that means the same as committee of the whole.
That's not what we're doing.
Okay,
We're not replicating the committee of the whole a second time. This will be a committee just devoted to finance. The committee of the whole, as you saw,
Yeah,
deals
but-
with a lot more things than just finance. So it's not, okay, so,
we'll just go on.
okay. All right, we've approved that, the committee has approved that for an ordinance, and it's, will not be in the consent agenda. That concludes our business for the committee of the whole, so I will adjourn the committee of the whole. And without having to start, I think, let's just keep, does anybody need a break? You want to take a break?
I just want to get done.
Get her done.
I got someone waiting for me.
Oh, I'm sorry, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now we are, and unless, no, let's, I think we can keep going, right? Is that okay with everyone?
Well, we've
Or
done
does
it.
anybody want a break? It's,
I have someone waiting on me.
Can I go,
My son's.
can I go to the bathroom?
all right, let's just take
Go to the
a
bathroom.
few minutes for
It's
everyone
not
to
good to
get,
hold it.
But no casual reading.
What is next?
special meeting.
What is it for?
We have a few
I may not have to
ordinances.
stay. Is it something?
Yeah, go ahead and turn it off since we're taking a little break.
So we're, 2027, 27, adoption of the comprehensive plan. This one, the, for the gap.